This is the continuation of a conversation with Pastor Bisi Oladele. How easy it is to be a critical journalist, investigative journalist in Nigeria? Is that very easy?
It is not easy. I can tell you I've interacted with some of my colleagues when I was still in employment, some of my colleagues that were on investigations desk. I've interacted with a number of them. I listen to their frustration. You want to, most of national dailies have their headquarters in Lagos. You are going, there is a scandal in Castina. You want to go there. You come up with a budget of 2 million naira and the company say, where are we going to get 2 million to, and we need this story. Oh boy, what we have is 500,000, including your transportation, your lodging, your feeding, your communication. We don't have more than 500. Go and work things out. You have to go and you must perform. So that happens. Even for a company to give you 500,000 to go and do an investigative story in Nigeria, the company is extremely serious and is really sacrificing, because it's not as if companies, Nigerian newspapers really have that profit margin to the level that they have money to be able to sponsor all of these things. So it is what it is.
Do you think Nigerian journalists, they actually want to be, critical journalists?
100%, yes. I know you, my brother. I know you. I know your passion for journalism. I know Bisi Oladele's passion to produce unique stories that people will read and begin to call you from all over the nation. We're able to read. But I'm also aware of the limitations you have.
Yeah.
So Nigerian journalists are willing, we are ready to do what is expected of us, to expose, to hold leaders accountable, to expose those that are doing wrong things in the society. But the environment is not really conducive. We are just managing to get the best from
in the absence of critical journalism in Nigeria. What effect do you think it has on the country?
It's part of why we are here, where we are. Why do you think corruption keeps thriving? In a nation where we have multiple media outlets and there's freedom of speech, it's guaranteed in the Nigerian Constitution.
And is it realistic?
Yet we have corruption killing us in Nigeria. How much work are Nigerian journalists doing to expose corruption, particularly in public places? It's because of the limitations that journalists in Nigeria have. I just told you one example.
Yeah.
Go and get advert. When the state government gives me advert regularly and I see corruption, will it be so easy for me to report the government that is spending money for me? And the idea, the politicians have also gone ahead of us. Politicians, yes, some politicians are very smart. Immediately you win an election, you appoint a journalist as your media aide, as your spokesman.
Okay.
And so what that means, what the gain from that is very huge. So your spokesman will talk to
the colleagues.
Please, except you want me to lose my job. And that means I will bring my wife and children to your house. So please, so please, you have to temper justice with mercy. So even if you have seen anything wrong with my boss, with my principal, please, even if you are not looking away, please make sure you reflect very generously our own reaction and things like that. All of those things, though they are normal, they say it's balance, but you just find out that at the end of the day, you don't get 100% of the quality of what the public should get. And that is why corruption is still festering. Despite the fact we have multiple media outlets, whose one of the assignments that we have is to hold leaders accountable. But a lot of things weaken our hands from doing our jobs properly. Part of it is inability to fund our jobs very well. Poor remuneration for journalists is also there.
What about intimidation?
All of those are there. Those are global issues. Sometimes people are intimidated. Sometimes they kill journalists and all of the things. Threats, where we get that from politicians and from corrupt people, even from criminals. If you're on the crime beat, you know the threats that you get from criminals, high net worth criminals.
Briefly, how could you? I mean, what's your take on how risky it is to be a journalist in Nigeria?
Well, essentially, all over the world, it is risky to be a journalist. But in Nigeria, the degree of risk for me is a bit lower. Because how much or how many hard investigative stories are we publishing? We are publishing investigative stories, but what is the quality of those stories? What impact are they making? Based on the factors that I've explained that limit us.
Wow.
So what's the quality? How many scandals are we exposing? And what's the quality? All of those things so these are the things that make journalism a risky profession for the practitioners. But where we are not doing as much as that, the risk is also a bit low.
With all the things you've enumerated, you've highlighted, is it right for me to say that journalists' hands have been tied to do the right thing in Nigeria?
Not completely.
Yeah, but
not completely. We still have some media organizations that will still say yes, we need to do this.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we still have some that will say yes, we need to do this. At least, if not 100%, let's take it to the level of 70-75%. We still have. Though sometimes politicians will name them, they will say, oh, it's because of this interest, it's because of that interest. We still have some media organizations that still do a bit of above average quality investigations. We still have.
Can you allow your child to go into journalism or any of your relatives?
Why not?
Can you encourage them?
Why not?
In the face of all the things you have talked
about? Yeah. Don't forget that things are also changing.
Okay.
Our own generation is gradually exiting. Once you are above 50, you are gradually exiting. Okay. Yeah. Journalism, the face of journalism is also changing.
Okay.
The digital revolution is also changing the way news is being consumed, the way news is being served. So if you are able to create a niche for yourself as a journalist, the society still needs journalism. I mean, well, the kind of journalism the society needs is good journalism. So if that is your own interest as my child, I won't discourage you. All I'll just tell you is ensure you know it well and you try to carve a niche for yourself in it. If you're able to carve a niche for yourself, you will still be fulfilled at the end of the day.
Let me ask this question. Have you ever had to run from a scene because of danger or take cover? Have you ever been assaulted, threatened, or incarcerated?
In the practice of journalism, because of the countless number. I remember, I think it was in 2009 or 2008 or 2009. I went to cover a runoff election in somewhere in Okiogun, Kajola local government.
In Oyo State.
In Oyo State. The court ordered a rerun in just one polling unit, and that polling unit is right in the bush in that local government. I mean, vehicles do not get to that bush. It's a community, it's a hamlet, having about 12 houses, and because it is right in the bush is Fulanis that live there. And so there is a polling unit there, and the court ordered a rerun only in that polling unit for a House of Assembly election. I think it was in 2009. I went there. Oh my goodness. That was one day God saved me. From the time we drove, we got to a stage vehicle could no longer, so we had to trek. We trekked for about maybe 2 kilometers before getting to that hamlet. And thugs of the party that was opposing the man that was elected, they insisted he would not win that election. They came with cutlasses, with guns, dangerous weapons. We will see how we get all that man needed. There were only 11 accredited voters in that polling unit, and all that man needed was one vote. And it was the party in government that didn't want him to have that one vote. So the party in government one vote to secure his election. He was already a member of the House of Assembly. His election was only nullified because of one. So he needed only one vote at that polling unit to retain his seat. And so the government in the day insisted he will not get, thankfully it was only 11 people that will vote, that he will not get that one vote. I asked myself, so this is where I'm ending my life. And when I got to, but what saved us that day was that, I don't know, something just happened. The head of the police team that came to supervise the election, I don't know. I think tomorrow I believe it was my prayer that worked that day, because I saw death face to face. And I said, God, so this is where I will end my life. God, please do something. God,
because you want to write a story.
Because I wanted to write a story. Suddenly, the head of the police, because police also mobilized large number, the head just said something. I don't know, it was as if something just happened. They just discovered. They said, it was Jagumbini. And he took over. And all the talk, move back, move back, move back. I don't want to move back.
Wow.
That was how it happened. And myself and my colleagues, we ran inside the policemen to be able to return to where we parked some 2 kilometers away. It's a day I will never forget in my life.
Wow.
There are countless times like that. There was a day we went to also cover a runoff election somewhere along Iwo Road. What's the name of this local government? This local government along Iwo, Lagelu.
Okay.
It was a runoff election too. We picked. I was the one that took my colleagues in our car. When we saw what they just did to somebody, we quickly carried those dogs. We quickly carried all the day at what is it called? Adamasinga Stadium here. The security people, it was during former President Jonathan era. Security people just lifted me like this with my trousers and
lifted you, right?
And they threw me out of the gate.
Oh my God, what was your back?
So it happens like that.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
You know, this story, all these stories, is just to tell people out there what they are actually going through.
Yeah.
And the reason to support them and make life very easy for them. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, it's a different story.
Nobody cares.
Is there any story you have written that went completely wrong? And what was the reaction of the concerned people? Any story
that went completely wrong?
Yes,
I can't. Okay, there was one story that I wrote. I remember one. It was something that happened at the Polytechnic Ibadan, and a friend who was covering crime. We interact as journalists so that you ensure that you do not miss story. Told me about that story and gave me that story, and because it was credible, I wrote the story and sent, only to find out that the case was not. It was a one-sided story. One way or the other, there was a fact was missing in the story. And so when the story came out the following day, they contacted my head office in Lagos and said, "Look, you published a wrong story." And because my editor trusted me that Bisi will not publish anything that's not factual, he called me. Now, we got a call now concerning this story we published on social page today. I said, "No, I don't think so, sir. But let me find out." So I called my friend. This is what I got, blah, blah, blah. So eventually I saw that a fact was missing there. And because it was a sensitive thing, it's about unionism and something, and I had to rewrite the story and publish it to and include the fact. You see, I was raised up to value my name. Credibility is everything. That's what my parents...
In journalism.
Even before getting to journalism, that's the kind of parents that raised me.
Okay.
Your name is everything. And so when I came into journalism, remember I said I studied English.
Yes.
I didn't study mass communication.
Yeah, you said so.
I treaded softly. Because I always saw myself that I didn't study this course. And I only learned by observation and by practice. So I was always very careful. I was always very careful. And I also had editors that insisted on ensuring credibility. So, other than that, I can't remember any story that went wrong.
All right, let me ask this. What is newsroom life like behind the scene? Behind the scene. Are there any running jokes?
Oh my goodness.
Or funny newsroom rituals and the fun that characterize newspaper production in the night? In the night. Wow.
One of the most interesting places to be is in the newsroom. Newsroom is a place where we have a blend of jokes, hard work, abuses in quote if you like, and a lot of other things go on there.
Okay.
Journalists can also be lovers.
Okay.
Journalists can drink beer. Some journalists carry, some of male journalists, a lot of them, they drink, carry girlfriend, and
and you were doing it too.
they drink, carry girlfriend,
and you were doing it too.
I never did that. As at the time I started journalism, I was already a born again Christian. So I didn't do any of that. I dropped all of that before I gave my life to Christ. But you see all of these things. And the newsroom is a very interesting place because it's always an open place, an open plan of it. Yeah. Nobody has any segregated office apart from the topmost boys in the so from editor-in-chief and the editor and every other person is in the open plan office, and you see how they are tearing story apart, how they are lampooning a young reporter, how they are, is this a story? No, just throw it in the dustbin. You don't know what you are doing. And the guy will be sweating. We don't talk to journalism. Is it not the place that and it's also a place where you see discussion of robust ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to use to lead tomorrow? I'm talking about in this room in a print media outlet because I'm a print person.
Yes.
So how can we serve this story like this? No. That story have you called to confirm from so? Have you done research about this and that? Have you know all of those things?
Don't put us into trouble.
Don't put us into trouble. Or sometimes you say you will get a memo. You will get so. Please don't give me a memo. Memo is a slang for query. You see, so it's a blend of laughter, blame, robust discussion, and pleasure.
And it will be very difficult for you to differentiate the organs.
No.
Everybody is
because we are talking about only one thing: story. How our story will get out there, how it will be well served, and all of those. So you don't want to leave the newsroom.
Yeah.
When you after finishing your production, sometimes it will look as if not they need to go home. You know, because you see jokes here and there, you know, and it's always very interesting.
I remember a scene when one of the editors told me, tó bá dẹ̀ dọ̀gá tán ní ìsìn ní kákò níwèé tí he will not remember those that were helping him to edit his story. Yeah.
So it's always an interesting place to be, and you see some Ipata editors, they have their beer by their table as they are editing, as they are contributing to discussion, they are also sipping their beer. And some their girlfriends are waiting at the reception. So, and many times when people leave the newsroom in the evening, they return to a beer parlor or a restaurant where they, you know. So that's just it.
I'm sure you've experienced that situation whereby you closed late and you had to get particularly if you had worked in Lagos,
yes,
and you had to get home around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
3 a.m. At times you sleep in the office.
That was a normal thing. When at the comment, I was on the Saturday desk,
okay,
and so we do our production on Thursday and Friday. It's a synchronous. Sleeping in the office is a synchronous. Imagine, ask me where we used to eat in the night.
Okay.
Our office was located at, remind me now.
I know the place.
Oh my goodness. No. The comment office. If you leave, go.
Where the nation is now?
No.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I've forgotten the name now. After brewery, if you are going like that.
Oh, that Igamu area.
Around Igamu, you pass Igamu, the next area where you have a lot of Hausas and people that
I know, yeah.
It's a slum.
Yeah, it's a very,
I've forgotten the name of that.
dirty place.
I've forgotten the name. Under the bridge,
and you see those guys,
the Hausas selling tea. That's where you used to, because you won't see any decent food in the night.
Yeah.
After finishing or done production, when it's about 1 a.m., you are very hungry. Where will you get any decent restaurant at 1 a.m.? And you have to eat. We go under the bridge. That smell, that tempting environment. What can you do? You have to forget it. She'd be in front of us and say, make me tea and egg and bread, and sometimes it could be rice and those mama that are selling, we eat with motor parks people.
Yeah.
Is it,
those fried eggs with bread and all of that.
Yeah.
I remember in daily times then there is a place in front of you see those
mama poops.
And you have to sit outside, with bench and all of that.
And so when you are going out there, that time you have to remove your tie in the newsroom.
Yes, of course.
You leave your tie in the newsroom because you can't. When you take tie there, you yourself you look very hot. Okay, so you leave your tie there, and that's how we cook. And after that, you go home inside Mulwe.
Can you talk about your funnest, story, almost unexpected thing, that's ever happened to you while you are covering? First talk about the most unexpected thing that happened to you while you were covering in a particular event, and also add to it your funniest story.
Most unexpected thing while covering an event. I hope I can remember. Like the experience I shared about what happened at Lagos Alami Stadium at Adama Singa, where the security operatives, whisked me out from the stadium. And on one or two occasions, they picked my pockets while trying to enter the stadium, because you get there, a lot of people were already there, many thugs, people that had no business in the stadium. So the security will be inside, they will prevent people. You just have to manage this crowd and tell them, look, I'm a journalist. So before you get anything done, sometimes they would have picked your pocket. So it happened to me once or twice. Once, they picked my cash. I remember 40,000 naira. I went to collect that cash. I wanted to use it to do something after leaving the stadium. The second one was my phone. They picked my phone. It was a colleague who was at a distant place that saw them, those who thugs, and he said they returned. So things like that happen.
Your funny story. your funniest story, or maybe your most memorable stories that you authored?
Yes, there was this story I wrote in maybe 2010 or 2011. The governor of Oyo State that time was Adebayo Alawakala of blessed memory, and he was recontesting in 2011. I think it was late 2010, maybe December or January, and my editor just called me that morning. I said, "Have you seen our story on page 3 today?" And I said, "Yes, I've seen it. A story of a report of what is not news in the State House, how the convivial mood in which you find the ministers while preparing for the FEC meeting, or after the FEC meeting, how they exchange banters, how they talk to themselves. So the editor asked the State House correspondent to capture that. I mean, something that is not serious news to give us. I said, "Have you seen it?" I said, "I've seen it. Your governor is recontesting and he's facing a tough opponent now. Then, in person of Abiola Ajimobi of blessed memory too, of ACN. And so, can you do something? I know Bisi, you can do it for her." And I looked at it. I said, "No worry, don't worry. I consider it done." And I sat down, looked at it, and I said, "Okay." And I did that story. A very senior retired editor who was already working in Abuja on contract was the first person that called me the following morning when the story came out. I said, "BC, I just read this your story. You finish Akala again." But I love this story. It's not a serious one. The perspective, the way I love this. Please keep this up. I was so happy.
Yeah.
And some other people, commented about it. There was also this story. It was in 2008. The fence of a private school somewhere in Ulumi fell on children, and some children died. So I reported it, and the following morning I was there to prepare for feature story. So I wrote my feature, and it was published. I had come and see accolades, even from colleagues. The details, everything. I will never forget that story. Positive reactions from colleagues and people outside, our industry. It was something that I will never forget. We have a number of them like that. A lot of analysis. Because I'm a feature person. I love feature and analysis.
Yeah.
I wrote.
Have you ever missed any story, and what was the reaction of the office?
I've missed story a number of times.
Okay.
And why I wasn't fired was because my supervisors, my editors knew how serious I was with my job. And they knew I always liked to give a copy, to produce a copy that is slightly different or slightly better than those of my colleagues. Yeah. So whenever I missed a story, they used to take it easy with me. But there was a story I missed. Not that I missed it completely, that my editor went berserk. It was when former Governor Lamadesina died.
Okay.
The man took ill, if you remember, and eventually he was taken to St. Nicholas Hospital in Lagos. And so we were since he was moved to Lagos, I said, "Okay, voila, he's no longer on my head. Let Lagos people continue to cover him." Okay, and so they assigned a reporter that will go to St. Nicholas every day to cover and report and all. Unfortunately, this man died. He died Sunday morning. I knew nothing that the man died. And as a pastor, I was already a pastor. I was in church. It was at about 12:30 p.m. that my phone rang from a former SA media that, "Hello, BC, have you sent your story?" I said, "Which story?" "About Lamb's death." I said, "Lamb is dead?" He said, "Lamb is dead. So, I quickly released the people that I was holding meeting with in the office. I said I needed to move. So I moved quickly. My family, I took them. I moved, and I was to go to Lagos that night. I quickly moved. I moved to Lamadesina's house. Being a Muslim, they had to bury him that day. I got there, maybe shortly before the burial or when
I was there too.
Yeah. So I only wrote the story about the burial one or 2 days in that. I didn't know that early in the morning, they brought him to the cops to Ibadan. And one of his closest allies, former Governor Shoba, was there. Journalists were there. They already interviewed him. He gave them his last moments. I didn't know. So I just wrote about what I saw, and I was also in a hurry because I was traveling to Lagos. You know, Muslims, they will bury around 4 p.m.
Yes.
So they bury around 4 p.m. So I was there till about 5:36.
Exclusive eluded you.
In fact, it was my wife that I asked to be driving as we were going to Lagos. She knew that I needed to write the story. As she was driving, I was writing the story.
Why are journalists?
The wife of a journalist is also a journalist. So she was doing the driving on Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Still terrible that time, but she had no choice. As a woman, she had to drive because it was getting dark and we needed to get to Lagos, and I must send my story. So I was writing the story. And what? So I sent my story. Amen. 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 That's one of the big blessings that God gave me.
Oh, that's great.
So I sent my story. I thought I was done, and when the paper was out the following day, oh my God, I drove back to Ibadan the following morning, and the call rang again from my editor. Have you seen other papers today, Bisi? I said, no, sir, I haven't. You need to go and see and call me back in 30 minutes. When I saw the story, I was panting myself that, this is too bad. No, I didn't get the last moment of lamentation.
Oh my God.
The man read and read and read and read. I was surcharged. I was queried. I got all sorts. But because of the fact that they knew that I always did my best, maybe they would have shocked me. Maybe they would have fired me. Like I said, why they sometimes will look at, okay, this guy, let's just be compassionate. What came after that was the death of Senator Olushola Saraki.
Oh, okay.
That was what came next to that big. Because of what I suffered during Lambstone, they mobilized me. You know, Ilorin was not Southwest, but they mobilized me. BC, go and strengthen our man in Ilorin to cover the barrier. So I just told the man in Ilorin, don't worry, take care of your routine aspect. I'll take care of others. I went straight from Ibadan. Because God blessed me with a car early. I branched at the airport. Because people were coming through the airport. People, the dignitaries were.
So you were just hijacking there, and the story was flowing.
Oh my goodness!
And flowing.
After doing that, after the burial, we moved to his after the burial, we moved to his house inside the lorry. When we got to the house, I told my lorry guy, just be doing your routine work. I found a way to enter the man's house. I got to the main sitting room. I saw, the crowd was there really, but I still saw members of the family, the Bisi Saraki, all of them. Fortunately, so for me, I saw his eldest wife. I don't know whether she's Bisi or Bukola Saraki's mother. I went to the mama.
For the exclusive? For the exclusive.
Oh my goodness. It's one experience I won't forget.
Yeah.
I went to the mama. I did like an African man. I said, Mommy, our grandma, you said you compared just Anita. I want you to reflect on it. I said, Mama looked at her and said, Mommy, a job. The woman granted me 1 minute.
Wow.
That was what made my report unique. No other paper had that interview. Remember, I started from the airport. As all the dignitaries were arriving, I was getting all the details of the plane that brought them, the time they got in. So I was able to get virtually the list of all the dignitaries, and I got an interview with 1 or 2 of them. And I now, the paper ran the interview, my interview with the Mama Sarakis. No other medium got that. So that kind of a thing, whenever I miss a story, my editors will say, okay, Bisi, let's just do. I think maybe that's why sometimes they will not go to the level of firing me. But it wasn't as if I didn't miss story.
The conversation is not ending here. Join us next Monday for the concluding parts of this conversation. Thank you.